Alright, welcome to second video. This time it's just me, David, recording. Matthew's busy, so I'm recording alone. This is from the same batch that the first video was recorded from. So the decks are the same, the matchup is the same, and I still haven't fixed the camera angle. Here we are starting with Corp. It looks like Hedge Fund, install ice, so Corp is at 10. Playing the default HB identity. And one install. I figure it's Jackson Howard. So I realized in the previous game, as I was playing it, that this deck with Morningstar, although it's very effective against a lot of the new double time tax ice, is fairly inflexible with slowing down fast advance deck. So I thought I would play the game and attempt to alter my strategy to put more pressure on the Corp. I think I end up not really being effective at that, and you'll kind of see. Okay, so I ran HQ, saw a biotic labor, I ran the remote, can't let him have a Jackson. I saw how many times he drew with it last game, but it was a Sanson City Grid, so we can't let that happen. I ditched 5 credits to prevent that from happening. Corp plays blue level clearance, keeping the drawl and econ ahead. And Corp is now at, I think, 16 or 17 credits. So I'm way behind. I guess he's at 13, excuse me. I'm really feeling the pressure now, especially since he still has an iced up HQ. I'm hoping I can pull a few things out of that. I'd really like to nerve Agent. I've got 2 in the deck, I've got 2 medium in the deck. And I'd like to put pressure on his centrals and force him into a position where he doesn't want to be. I start with a lucky find to get my econ rolling again, up to 10 credits. I check the remote, it's the Jackson this time. I believe I do pay to trash it, yes. I can't let him have that draw engine. It's not even about the amount of his recouping out of archives and overdrawing. It's just the draw. He gets so much power out of being able to draw. I believe I spent the entirety of my turn drawing, looking for those programs I need to start my rig and put the pressure on. Corp is mulling around. Here I'm trying to show my hand to the camera. I thought that might work. I think I really need to reposition the camera in future videos. After reading some comments about the video, I think that's the right way to go about it. So Corp draws an extra card. Still figuring out what to do. In retrospect, I think the Corp is probably sitting on multiple agendas at this point in HQ. Ice is up HQ finally. And he's sitting on a pretty 15 credits. That's a really bad space for Sanson City Grid HB to be for the runner. I run, mostly just to get him to waste his credits. Unfortunately, it's a Viper. Man, Viper really pays off in this deck. I've played HB in the past, and I've kind of written it off as kind of being NBN import ice and not really thinking about it. But man, does it play well in this game. I boost the trace by 2 to avoid losing the click, I believe. And then the second trace happens to end the run. And I believe he pays to keep me out. So I'm really not wanting to pay that much to access one card. I think I take the end the run. I do. I draw a card. I draw another card. Really looking for those programs. This deck doesn't really have any searching, so this puts me in a bad spot. I installed Mimic. I had a lot of trouble. I've had a lot of trouble pulling Mimics, even with 3 in the deck. So getting it on the table as soon as I can. and here I discard my overdraw of a second Mimic. I've got 3 in the deck, and so I feel like I am perfectly safe discarding a second copy of it. And that ends up, I believe, actually coming back and biting me in the end of the game. So we get a Biotic to a shipment from Sansan for a Vitruvius. So Corp is at 2 points, and he still has, I believe, 8 credits to my 6, I believe.
Click to a draw.
Draw a card. Draw a card. Really looking for the programs, not seeing them. I think I'm overdrawing through the likes of Plascrete and Lawyer Up, which I don't care to have in this deck because I figure I'm not going to take much in the lines of tags or meat damage. So I discard Lawyer Up after I take a credit. Yeah, Plascrete and Lawyer Up. Lawyer Up is really nice for powering up Power Nap and for dropping tags that were unexpected. Mid-seasons or similar. Even with Account Siphon not included in the deck, it's still very powerful. Least of all because it powers up Power Nap. So Corp draws, installs, and gains a credit from the install. I figure it's probably an agenda, and I think I have a knight in hand, so if I don't, I may also Queen's Gambit it. So my Gambit is kind of, if I can't get into the server, it doesn't slow me down too much to getting 6 credits, and let the Corp have 1 free turn. So I do play Queen's Gambit. I figure if I can get my econ rolling, I can get my multi-access train rolling, and letting him have a free turn and 3 credits isn't so bad. And there's also a chance it could just be an econ asset. So I drop Medium as my 3rd click, and I believe I face check R&D. With 6 credits. Let's see. I do. So I access 1 card off of R&D, put 1 virus counter on Medium, and it's a accelerated beta test. Oh boy. So the score is now 2-2. I'm really hoping that card is a asset. Unfortunately, oh, it is an asset. So it paid off this time. Matthew's uncomfortable with advancement counters being on Adonis, and he elected to have them replaced with ordinary credits. He said he didn't have any Trick of Light in the deck, so that's fine. There's 3 advancements on it for the remainder of the game, but it ends up running out of credits and being trashed on its own, so that's fine. So the Queen's Gambit paid off. It ended up not hurting me to gain 6 credits from that. It's a bit of a risk, to be honest, and a lot of Corp decks don't have assets. So it can be quite risky in a new remote. Now, upgrades are well worth it. It's always worth it to check the upgrades. And if you know which one's the asset, or if you know which one was the agenda, you can freely put the counters on the upgrade. And it ends up kind of countering the likes of Ash or other annoying upgrades that just make running remotes really poor. One of the things I've noted about these games in retrospect is that putting that on hold, I discard my 3rd Mimic, which may have been a mistake, because I think I end up getting it trashed by an Ichi later on in the game. So that's quite unfortunate. Matthew did not notice that I had discarded my 3rd Mimic, so he gets rid of Mimic, I think, just to reduce my options, but doesn't notice that I end up actually being without a way to break sentries. Moving the Vitruvius to the other side of the table for visibility. Matthew installs an ice, installs a card behind the ice, and I believe he may have drawn. No, he advances once. So I see one advancement on it, and I think it's going to be an efficiency committee.
Knight.
So I install Knight out of hand, keeping it in there for just such a remote clutch play. So click 1, I install Knight. Click 2, I almost certainly host. Click 3, I run. And I want to see what that is. I think I'm thinking about not running on click 3 and running on click 4, but I think better of it, and I'm pretty sure I run on click 3. Corp does not res. Unfortunately, it's an aggressive secretary. Man, that sucks. So, Matthew elects to trash Mimic rather than Knight or Medium, which I think is an interesting play. I'm not really sure what he's after with this. I guess, so I believe the second card on R&D is an Ichi 1.0. So he's thinking he can snipe my other programs if I try to run on R&D. So a misplay with the aggressive secretary. It's a really pretty good trap, especially since it can't be prevented or avoided. Dropping in my name of the channel right there. So I believe Adonis' campaign runs out of credits at the top of the turn. So now I'm in a pretty rough spot. I know I don't have any more killers. I've got exactly one retrieval run in the deck, and it's supposed to be an econ card for installing Morning Star, which I haven't been able to get on the table yet either. So I know I'm in trouble when it comes to face checking. No killer and face checking means bad times. But I know he's HP, so running on the first click may not be so bad. He installs a second ice on the remote and a new card and advances it. I'm feeling pretty burned by the first aggressive secretary.
Gain credit. Sure gamble.
But I sure gamble up to 9 credits after gaining a credit. So 2 clicks, gain a credit, sure gamble. And I believe I run on my third click. See what happens. No, I draw for my third click. And I sure gamble. I figure I chicken out, basically. I figure I can't face check 2 pieces of ice. I might lose the Knight, which is basically the only thing holding me up right now. Sexy Man Robot runs out of credits, gets trashed. Corp advances 3 times and scores a efficiency committee. So I'm in bad trouble time. I know he's got shipment from Sansan with 3 counters on efficiency committee. I am going to have a really bad time. So I basically need to... At this point I realized that I had been making poor choices with how I've been running. Running the remotes was a bad idea. I can't put enough pressure on the fast advance with Biotic Labor and other cards to really make a difference. I need to be focusing on his centrals with a fast advance deck. The centrals mean that he can really... he can't really afford to keep me out of the centrals, but he can afford to just outprice me on the remotes every time. So if it ever comes down to putting an agenda in a remote, he can probably afford to keep me out, and it's safe there. Where it wouldn't be safe are his hand or his R&D. If I could get Nerve Agent or my medium up and rolling where I can access once a turn, I can really kind of choke him out of the fast advance. And it took me, as sad as it is for me to admit it, took me a game and a half to figure out that I had been playing my deck wrong against this Corp strategy. Yogg is... I have not seen a Yogg up to this point, so HQ is out of the question. I do have a medium on the table, though, and I'm feeling super pressured by the Corp right now. Even with the Data Sucker, I don't have any breakers. The Data Sucker is only there to help me face check. It does nothing else for the deck. All of my breakers are fixed strength breakers. The Data Sucker is just there to make up for any strength differentials on the ice. There's only a handful of cards for which I need it. Mostly Hadrian's Wall and Heimdall 1-0 and 2-0 give me problems. But for a lot of those, Knight can sit on the ice and fix the problem as well. Wotan gives me a good bit of trouble, but I think that's the case for any breaker suite. So I'm really having trouble with this state in the game. I can't figure out what to do as runner. I don't think I can put enough pressure on the Corp. And that's a bad spot to be in. Corp installs and advances once, uses one counter off of Efficiency Committee and Shipment from Sansan. So he's still got 2 counters and he scores a second 3-pointer. This time it's Gila Hands. So now I know that I probably can't outpace him in terms of econ from rezzing ice, and he's at that dreaded 5-point match point position as Corp. So I know I need to basically prevent him from ever stealing another agenda. I move Knight for first click. Second click, I install Morning Star. Third click and fourth click, I power nap to take me back up 6 credits. So now I'm sitting at 7 credits. I've got a trick in mind, in my hand, and I'm hoping I can pay it off. So the power nap, which is now as strong as a lucky find, but requiring no initial cost to set up, is looking pretty good. That's really the plan with power nap. The point of power nap is to get it to be a little bit more powerful than the speed of lucky find by the end of the game, so that I can go from having 0 or 1 or 2 credits to having 8 or 9 credits, and just being able to run and break through servers that the Court player was counting on me not being able to ever really reach. I think a lot of Court players right now, at least, think in terms of, can the runner sure gamble, or can the runner play an easy mark and get up to enough econ to make it? And power nap kind of throws that equation out the window. So Corp installs 1 card face down. I figure it's an agenda, so basically the game's up for me. I run R&D, and it's a second Viper. Vipers really give me a lot of problems. With a Trace 3 and a Trace 2 for the click and the end the run, I'm having to make a difficult choice. I believe I pay 2 credits to avoid the click loss, since I ran on click 1 or 2. And then I get outpaced for money with the end the run, I believe. Corp boosts by what looks like 4. So he actually makes it too expensive for me to get in. So I give up on that run, and I power nap again to get up 2 credits. I've got a plan up my sleeve for maybe pulling one over on the Corp. Looks okay. So I run on my fourth click. So I ran on my first click, second and third click were power nap. Fourth click I ran on the remote. It's a Sansan City Grid, and the corp could not afford to res. I counted his money. I think he's down to 1 credit. So I ran the remote, figuring whatever it was worth getting rid of. Sansan City Grid is just kind of an absolute. If it's on the table, or if it's in the corp's hand, or even if you see it on R&D, you have to pay to trash it. If it ends up getting on the board, or if, least of all, if it ends up getting rezzed, that just means the end of the game for the runner. Even though he's already at match point, I elected to pay to get rid of it, because at least it gives me one more turn where I might be able to prevent him from advancing and scoring a agenda. He still has 2 counters on his efficiency committee, so if he has a shipment from Sansan, then there's nothing I can do to prevent him from scoring a 3-2. But I pay to get rid of it anyway, because I'm doing pretty well in terms of my econ, thanks to the second power nap. So the corp installs another face down, and I believe he takes the efficiency committee to he plays the efficiency committee to blue level clearance, credits, and cards. A really interesting play, not one that I think about doing as HB, but I think it really pays off for him. He gets the draw, and he also gets the same number of credits he would have gotten from Gila Hands, 2 clicks. So I believe this is the turn where I put my plan into action. I'm sitting at 4 programs at 5 MU. I've got 2 spare MU from Grimoire, so I've got room for 1 more program. I know I don't stand a chance of getting my Breaker Suite on the table with this game. So I elect to try to outpace the corp in terms of econ on Viper and run on R&D anyway. So let's see. I draw a card. Still looking for a multi-access card. Not really seeing it. I'm only at 2 agenda points, so I know I'm in bad trouble. The best thing I can do is go for multi-access, and maybe keep the corp from being able to draw and score the last agenda. Now, I've seen the face down on the remote, so I know I probably only have 1 turn left. If it's a 3-2, I've lost. So I install medium, a second medium, and since Grimoire is installed, it comes with 1 virus counter on it.
Run.
And then I believe I run for my final click on R&D to avoid having to pay for the Vipers lose a click. Ultimately, I ended up making a mistake. Having the knight on Viper would have been a better choice, and it may have cost me the game. I'm not really sure if I had the room to avoid or clicking knight twice to get him on the Viper on R&D. So I believe the corp does not res the first piece of ice, but he does tax me on the Viper. Okay, and keeps me out. Now, Corp advances 3 times, and I thought that was game, but it ended up being a Director Haas pet project. So now he's at 6 points. And here we have a discussion about if he wants to use Director Haas's ability. And I'm reading the ability, and it is install up to 3 cards from HQ and or archives. And I kind of made a point about him already having a 2 ice deep remote, and is it really worth it for him to do it at this point? But He elected to do it, I think partially because he could. And so he installs the third remote out of the screen. I comment about it being out of frame, and I believe we adjust the one ice remote to be out of frame and move the other two remotes to be just visible on the camera. And that'll be happening up here. So I've got one more turn, maybe two more turns than I thought I had, in order to try to steal victory here. I thought that was game. So now I've got one extra turn to try to win. Now I see that Corp's sitting on 3 credits, and he's installed. So I figure this is probably the end of the game. This is all I've got to do. I lost with Corp at 1 credit in the last game, so I know that 3 credits isn't enough to prevent him from winning if he's got a shipment from Sansan. So I need to run. I draw twice. I've got a lucky find, but I can't really afford to use it. I draw a third time. I believe I see an ice wall, and I know I need to run because I've got nothing else to do. I've got double medium, so R&D is looking super, super tasty. I'm hoping I can top deck. I guess I'm hoping to top deck 3 agendas. It's an unreasonable expectation, but that's what I'm hoping to see. So I think I'm making up my mind what to do with my 3rd click. I'm planning to run on my 4th click.
Pay 3. Do it.
I pay my way through the end of the run. Corp keeps 2 credits. I gain 1 virus counter on Data Sucker and 1 on each of my medium. I see 3 cards, plus 1 from each of my medium. I see 1 agenda.
1 additional card here.
3.
And here we are counting out how many access it is. Usually I count the number of viruses I have on my multi-access to figure out how many I need to draw. So if I've got 2 virus counters on medium, that means I can access 2 cards off of R&D. But with 2 of them installed, I'm all confused. So I recount them. I see a 1 2-pointer off of R&D. So I figure, well, if that card that was installed is an efficiency committee or it's an Adonis campaign, maybe I can get 1 more turn of running. And I will be able to see 5 cards. Maybe I can pull 4 points off of R&D. Or 3 if he has any 1-pointers. I'm really happy that he ends up not having an agenda installed in that remote. He's also at 2 credits, so economically he's in a bad spot. I believe he installs,
Alright.
gains a credit, and advances, putting him at 5 credits.
I'm gonna Queen's Gambit.
I Queen's Gambit, the card that is not advanced, to get me up to the window of being able to run on R&D. And here I think I may have made a mistake. It may have been better to run twice.
Gain credit. Run.
I'm not sure if I could have afforded to run against Viper and pay to prevent losing a click. But
Queen's Gambit's a double.
You said
instead I took a credit and then I ran. And here there I am counting out my clicks.
well, I can't.
So the Corp does not res the first piece of ice. I gain a virus counter on each of my viruses, and I access 5 cards. I'm really hoping to see something worthwhile here. Hopefully 2 agendas. I have an okay chance of winning the game with this play.
It's my last turn, so
Oh, right, so you skipped the first.
Pay 2 to break.
Alright.
But I figure the game's over if I can't win. I access 1, I access 2,
Take
I
it.
access 3, I score, taking me up to 6 points.
Total, right? 2, 4,
And we're counting out, and I access 1 more.
Trash it. Turn 1.
but it's not an agenda. It's arcology. So too bad. I saw one agenda point, one agenda for 2 points. I'm up to 6. Corpse at 6. I figure this is probably good, and it is. It's a final efficiency commit.
Yeah, that's fun.
So puts me in a pretty rough spot. There I am taking R&D to see if I would have won. I think I end up being 1 turn away from winning
7
again
cards.
with 1 extra access,
Nice.
which is a bit disappointing. 2 mediums puts a lot of pressure on.
Nice.
They build up counters really
yeah, I couldn't
fast.
afford my lucky
It turns
points,
out I had
so
Queen's
the
Gambit
Penguins
on
lost
a
it.
second Adonis campaign, so
Yeah,
good luck
I mean,
there.
Installing here and advancing,
And
I knew would either be
It was a pretty close game.
like either
Um,
you would ignore it and I would be able
Can I
to
get
win.
in?
Not as, or a lot closer than the last game. I'm
You-
still
so
kind of learning how to
theoretically,
play
yes. If you had enough money,
with
you could have
this type of anarch deck.
The traces here.
In general, this deck is not designed to put any real pressure on fast advance. This deck, as I mentioned in the last video, was designed to prove why Starlight Crusade funding is a bad card. And so it has a ton of doubles. And it turned out that I liked using the doubles, but I never felt like installing Starlight Crusade. So I replaced it with Plascrete Carapace, and this is the deck. The deck is kind of focused at dealing with some new corpse strategies that are kind of appearing after the end of the spin cycle and double time. Being able to break through the likes of Hive for 1 credit makes a really big difference when playing against taxation decks. Being able to break Eli for 1 credit makes a big difference. Unfortunately, where it doesn't make a big difference is fast advance. The corpse is just able to throw out agendas and gain credits faster than I can deal with a new type of ice being rezzed. Reina is the idea of choice because I'm hoping that I can slow down the corp just a little bit with the additional res cost, but it does not cut it for the fast advance decks. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support of the first video, and I hope to have more videos in the future. So on.